Then when you've got Angel screaming, Angel does it again. And
that was something, right?
That was something.
I'm sorry, you canceled the support for the game a month ago.
Why would they even host a trade?
I don't know.
And I sit down and he picks up one donut and eats it. So you want to like QA games?
When the rubber meets the road, they're gonna be like, oh my god, I don't like seeing Mario get his skull smashed.
Oh, I would love
It
to see
doesn't
that.
work.
I would love to see
Yeah,
that.
again, like I said.
Ladies and gentlemen, casuals and sweatlords, welcome to another episode of BattlefieldOne Podcast, the best Battlefield-related podcast on the planet. My name is Tom, also known as the Lanky Soldier, and I'm so glad you're joining us for another episode of just us talking about Battlefield. I'm so glad you guys joining us, and thank you so much for giving us your time in hearing our discussions about this beautiful, amazing franchise. Even though sometimes I want to pull my hair out because this franchise made me angry, but that's not the point. We all love Battlefield. I'm glad you're joining us, and I hope you're gonna enjoy the conversations we have today. Today I'm sadly by myself because Ray is working, he's doing some real life stuff, understandable, and Andre is traveling and he's in Japan right now. And there's some Battlefield news came out, so I'm all by myself, so I'm just like, you know what, that's fine. The last time I hosted the episode by myself was 10 episodes ago, so I might as well do that again, and it seems like you guys enjoyed the conversations I had back then, so I'm glad you enjoyed it, so we'll try to do this again. So this time around there's some news came out about the Battlefield game, the new Battlefield game. There was a playtest a couple of days ago. I was not invited because I was on holiday and so on, and even though I never got an email, but that's not the point. I was on holiday, didn't do anything, it was just enjoying some peace and quiet. That's why there was no episode last week, but I was paying attention what's happening with the playtest, I was paying attention what's happening with the blog post that is released about weapons not being restricted to classes, all that kind of stuff, which caused a lot of uproar in the Battlefield community. And I disagree with their uproar and their anger because I will discuss in this episode why I disagree with their mentality regarding this, because Battlefield needs to adapt to the modern times. Whether you like it or not, it's an expensive game, lots of developers working on this game, lots of stuff that needs to be achieved and so on, and you have to look at the competition you're dealing with. Whether you like it or not, you have to look at Call of Duty Warzone, you have to look at Call of Duty in general, you have to look at the other games. So we're going to discuss that. And just gonna be discussing everything that's happened, and I'll try to approach this from a neutral point of view about this topic. But yeah, I had some good discussions with you all and everything, and I hope you're gonna enjoy what I have to say, all that kind of stuff. And I did play Battlefield 4 recently while I was on holiday, so that was a new experience. Like, just to go back, that memory lanes, like what happened. And like the game is like 12 years old now, and just the fact that I can play Battlefield 4 again on PS5 while on holiday, that was a new experience, but I'll tell you that in the episode as we go on. But yeah, so lots of things happened. I want to discuss stuff, and on the next episode we have a guest coming over, so hopefully that should be really fun and interesting. And on that note, please enjoy the conversations, and yeah, thank you guys for joining, and enjoy the conversation I have. So let's start with the first topic of this episode. Nothing serious, I just want to talk about my experience with Battlefield 4. So, I was on holiday for the last week and a half, so that's why there was no episode last week and so on. Because I was on holiday, just relaxing, visiting my in-laws, and there was a PlayStation 5 there. And internet was garbage, like where my wife's parents live, it's such a rural out, like in the middle of nowhere area. It's basically, it's a village. I was basically living in a village, a nice village, but I was basically living in a village with 10 meg speed internet, and a PlayStation 5 that happened to came not from this country, came from a different country, and it was not even theirs. It was my nieces that had a PlayStation 5 there, and we're just like, you know what? I'm here for a week, 10 meg speed, sure. Let's leave the PlayStation on for the whole night and let's download Battlefield 4. I have the premium package and I have everything and so on. So I'm like, why not? I have nothing else to do. I'm not gonna play Warzone because I already completed my Battle Pass. I have no reason to make myself miserable by playing Call of Duty while I'm on holiday. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go down memory lane, see what games I have on my console, on my PlayStation account. And, I don't have PlayStation Plus, but that's okay. Her niece's boyfriend has an account. He has a PlayStation Plus subscription, so I'll just share the game from my account to his account on the same console, and we'll play some Battlefield. So I played on his account, fresh new account. He never played Battlefield, 0 level, 0 unlock, 0 attachments, whatever. A fresh new account playing a Battlefield game, a Battlefield 4, like a game that is 12 years old. And I'm like, you know what? I had a good experience. To my surprise, I had a good experience. The last time I played Battlefield 4 was more than a year ago, I think, and I think I mentioned to Enders that how outdated the game felt to me while playing on PC. And the game really felt outdated, and I'm like, oof, I can't believe this was the standard back in the day, that this was the shit, you know? Battlefield 4 was the shit. And it was, back in the day, it was an amazing game. Loads of maps, loads of weapons and everything. It was a good game, a really fun Battlefield experience. Back then, that was the standard. These days, it's not, no, you can tell that the game really aged. Like, you can tell that time has passed. But that being said, the game looked really beautiful, even for a 12-year-old game. The game looks really amazing. Like, listen, if graphics is not your thing, the game still looks really amazing for to modern times. If a game releases with graphics like that to modern times, yeah, it would be more than possible. It would be acceptable. Battlefield 4 still looks amazing, these days. It still looks really good visually and so on, especially on PlayStation 5 when there's no settings or whatever. You have the standard, standard graphical feature, like standard or whatever. You can't change the graphics. You can't change how the game looks. The game you have on console is what you get. So, and developers try their best to make the game look as good as possible on the console because, hey, like no graphics changes or anything. That's the game. The game looks really amazing to this day. Compared to other modern games, it still could pass. It still could pass as a modern game. But as I played, and it was really fun to experience that Battlefield moment, that Battlefield experience, while playing Battlefield 4 in this age, in 2025. It's quite an experience because I haven't felt this experience for I want to say maybe more than 5 years at this point. Just launching a Battlefield game and just having a little bit of fun, not try-harding too much or whatever. Of course, I'm not going to play horrible on purpose, but just the fact that, hey, I can just launch the game, play, shoot some people, capture some flags, capture some objectives and win the game and so on and move on to the next map. And so it was a nice, casual, relaxing experience. And I felt like I'm back being 12 years old. I was like, I'm back being a kid. I literally told my wife, I was sitting next to her, I feel like a kid playing this, because I was sitting on the sofa, playing on a big-ass TV, with a controller in my hand, while my wife was sitting next to me on her phone, and her parents were, on the side doing something. And I'm just, in the middle of the, not middle of the night, 10 in the evening, I'm just playing Battlefield 4 with some nice waffles on my side, a nice snack and a nice drink next to me, and I'm just playing Battlefield 4 for fun. On a brand new account, just unlocking stuff and everything progressing and so on. It was a vibe. It was actually a big vibe that I haven't felt for 5+ years. The last time I felt like that maybe was, I don't know, maybe when Call of Duty Warzone came out the first time around. Maybe that vibe. You just feel like you're just happy to play no matter what. Yeah, you want to try to win the game and try to do your best and everything, but you're not really mad if you lose and everything because at least you gave your best, And that's how I felt with Call of Duty Warzone when it came out back in 2020, COVID times and everything. You're at home, no one's going anywhere, you're just at home sitting and just playing, Call of Duty Warzone. That's a vibe, And playing Battlefield 4, there in a different country with 10 meg speed internet. Wired, by the way, wired. You don't even try Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi will be you will be dying. It's lagging and everything will be horrible. So just the fact I can play a wired 10 meg internet speed Battlefield 4 game, it was definitely a vibe. Just I haven't felt this kind of thing for a while. And I hope the next Battlefield game that we're going to talk about in a couple of moments, I hope this new Battlefield game will offer that experience to me. Just not normal, casual vibe that just I can do my best, try not to be frustrated with the game or whatever the case may be. Sure, Battlefield 4 is not perfect. I don't care what everyone says. Battlefield 4 never was and never will be perfect. but it aged fine. Like, it looks great. The mechanical is still somewhat okay. Even though I played on PC, I was really frustrated how outdated the game is. But that's not the point. It's still a good game. You know, the DICE developers left the game in a good state. You know, even though the single player is still crashing on us. You know, we finished the single player too there because we're like, well, we have time to spare. Why not? We can spare 6 hours to finish the Battlefield 4 single player, which we did. We had crashes. Console crashed on us because the game is still buggy when it comes to the single player. But the multiplayer experience felt fine. It felt like a nice, really relaxing experience. And I hope the next Battlefield game actually gives me that feeling again. That's just like, launch the game, have some fun, don't think about too much, and just do your best. Which I kind of miss that, in a sense. But at the same time, I know that if Battlefield 4 came out this year, you know, like we never had Battlefield 4 and it came out this year, yeah, it will be interesting for the first month or two, but after that, what's next? You know, what are we doing next? Like, it's different age, different era, different, like, it's modern times and everything, like different culture in games and everything. I don't think Battlefield 4 will be as successful as it was back then, even when Battlefield 4 back then came out broken as hell, you know. But because of DICE, you know, created CTE, because the community test environment existed, Battlefield 4, you know, ended its run on a really good note. And to this day, you can still feel the love that was put into that game. The game feels really amazing, even though on PC, clearly, time passed and everything, you know, mechanics have kind of, you know, aged badly. But that's fine. It's still a good game, still a fun game. And if you like have nothing else to play, and you can buy the game for like $2-3, I don't know how much it is on PlayStation right now. If you can get the game for that dirt cheap, why not? You know, if you never played the Battlefield game, I think especially on console, if you never played the Battlefield game on a console, I think Battlefield 4 is a good starting point. Honestly, maps are, of course, maybe not the best, but just the fact that the game is fun in some shape or form, and it's a nice starting point for people that are not familiar with the franchise. I think it's a good starting point. Now, of course, as I play Battlefield 4 on a fresh new account, nothing unlocked whatsoever, but I have all the DLC, so because I'm sharing from my account to niece's boyfriend's account, who never played Battlefield 4. Just the fact that playing Battlefield 4 and try to unlock everything, oof, that felt annoying. I have to admit. What I dislike about modern gaming these days is just when you launch the game for the first time, let's say years later, right? Years later, after the launch, and you never play this game, and you just want to experience the game, and you're just gonna get, you're already starting at a disadvantage because you don't have the full equipment unlocked, you don't have the weapons unlocked, you don't have the, you know, attachments unlocked, all that kind of stuff. Just unlocking everything again was kind of overwhelming and annoying, you know. On Battlefield 4, on a game that is 12 years old, even though on a big grand scale, it's not really that important, but it felt kind of annoying, you know. It's like I like that's what modern Call of Duty, for example, is dealing with. That when you launch Call of Duty Warzone, for example, you're dealing with players that unlocked everything, have camos and attachments and everything. They know how the game works, and when you never play the game, and you basically have to launch the game, everything for you is unlocked from 3 different games. Let's say you never played the Call of Duty game and you want to try Warzone. You have guns and attachments and content from 3 different games. Modern Warfare 3, and Black Ops 6 right now. Just to launch the game and play Warzone, you have to unlock so many fucking things just to have some comparative advantage. Or like, not even comparative advantage. We're talking just to be on an equal footing with the other players. That's annoying. And playing Battlefield 4 on a fresh new account, on someone else's account and so on, it's like, that felt annoying. I'm like, oh shit. I'm kind of glad we're low-key moving away from that, but we still people think that we need some sort of progression. But I don't think weapons and everything, just unlocking weapons, just annoying. You know, it was really annoying. So I hope the new Battlefield game kind of can find like the balance between that, but it was just like, that was annoying. But other than that, yeah, that's all I want to mention, because the things we're going to discuss now is kind of regarding that, because just to have that, what the next Battlefield will be like and what we're going to be dealing with in the future when the game is going to be out. So I just kind of want to mention that, and just my experience how playing Battlefield 4 12 years later, in the middle of nowhere on a 10 meg speed internet, just play Battlefield 4 again, just to experience what it felt like to be a child again. For me, that was quite a vibe. So I hope the next game is gonna do that. I just want to mention that, even though it's not important and everything, but just the fact that I had that experience again. I felt that experience, what it felt like play a Battlefield game and what it meant to be fun. But I think it puts a nice, what's the word? It's a nice reflection, right? It's a nice understanding of what needs to be done for the future, for the Battlefield game to be successful, especially for the modern times. Like I said, if Battlefield 4 came out this year, I don't think it would be that successful. A month or two entertainment, like my co-host Ray says, splash in the pan, that's it. Moving on, what's the next game? Let's go back to Helldivers, let's go back to Warzone, let's go back to Fortnite, whatever the case may be. I don't think Battlefield 4 will be successful these days, even with the server browser. I really don't think so. Server browser helps maybe longevity of the game, but other than that, I don't think it will be successful. I don't think people will care about the game as much as you think people like to think. Look at Battlefield 2042. Yes, the game is not successful. Game was a disaster, whatever. They fixed as much as they could with Battlefield 2042. But Battlefield 2042 is just... what? Just for shits and giggles. What's the Steam chart? I know Steam's charts are not the best indicator how the game is doing because it's just only one platform. But let's say, for Battlefield 2042, what's the player numbers on Steam? Let's see, I'm just quickly Googling. We have 6,000 players right now playing 2042 on Steam. So, bigger numbers, I guess. Or let's say maybe 10,000 playing on Origin right now. Well, not Origin, EA desktop app. And maybe I don't know, maybe 15 or 20,000 playing on console, maybe. That's just my assumption. I just know that Steam is not the best indicator when it comes to like player numbers, because it's just only one platform. When the game is out on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, is that what it's called? I don't know. The Xbox naming convention is just dumb. Anyway, the new Xbox, the old Xbox, and PC, and then the game. I don't think, is it on Epic Games? Yes, it's on Epic Games, it's on Steam, and it's on EA desktop app. So there's like, 6-7 platforms, to track, you can't really predict what kind of number you're gonna get, but Steam charts kind of like a small indicator, like what we can expect from other platforms. But yeah, that's what Battlefield 2042 and Battlefield 4 and so on. So yeah, I don't think Battlefield 4 will be successful these days if you try to push it, as a new release these days. I think people will be bored of it in a month or two because, like, whatever, it's just another arena shooter. But I want to bring that out because I think it's important for the conversation we're gonna have now. So, DICE released a blog post about classes and weapon restrictions. So in that blog post, they explained what to expect in the next Battlefield game. So before that, there were blog posts about destruction, what's the idea behind the game, and there was another blog post about something else. I can't remember. Maybe the first ever blog post was about the idea what's Battlefield Labs. I think that's what it was. So DICE released, or EA, Battlefield Studios, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know who is releasing these blog posts. Let's just say EA. EA released a blog post, and basically DICE is explaining what's their vision behind the classes in the game for the new Battlefield game, and why there's no weapon restrictions for each class. So which previous Battlefield games, we had like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, and Battlefield 5. Battlefield 2042 was Battlefield 2042 was the only game that did not have weapon restrictions to classes, so you can use any gun you want on any class. Granted, what Battlefield 2042 is a bit different because originally the Battlefield 2042 came out with specialists, which was not classes, they were just characters, right? And you could use any gun you want and so on. And then they put specialists into classes, and then you can use any weapon you want for each class, basically. That's what it was. So comparing to Battlefield 2042 is not really fair because circumstances are a bit different. So I think the best way is to compare it to all the Battlefield games. So Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, those games had restrictions for each class. So like each class could use specific weapon class in the class only, and other classes had their own weapon class they could use. So you could not have an assault rifle on a recon or a support class or engineer. So assault class had, let's say, assault rifles, engineers had SMGs, I think, support class had LMGs, and recon had snipers, right? And they were in that mix, there were universal weapons like carbines, I think SMGs or shotguns or something like that, I can't remember. But basically, each class had a weapon class that they could use, and only that class could use. And there were some universal weapons to help out in some edges when you like, okay, well, you can't really use SMG, maybe use a shotgun or, DMRs, here you go, designating maximum rifles, here you go. Each class could use a designating maximum rifle, right? Giving that different options for the classes. Back in the day, that kind of worked because it just kind of made sense for the class. Like, yeah, the class is the assault, he needs assault rifles. The engineers are, anti-vehicle class, so it kind of needs speed and SMGs and everything. Support classes, LMGs, suppressive fire, all that kind of stuff. Like in Recon Sniper, like that made sense. Back in the simple times, that made sense for those games. Now we're in the modern times, like let's go from Battlefield 4, like I said. 12 years later, we live in different times. And of course, when DICE introduced this change that each class in this new Battlefield game, it doesn't have any specialists and so on, it has classes. And each class has a particular equipment to them. So Assault has assault stuff, Engineer has engineer stuff like RPGs, all that kind of stuff. Then you have Support, which is a medic / ammunitions guy, so we have ammunitions and medkits and everything. And then you have Recon that is like, Recon stuff, spotting, spawning, all that kind of stuff, right? Like that, Recon stuff. And DICE decided not to have any weapon restrictions for classes. So whatever class you're using, you can use any weapon class you want. So if you want an assault rifle on a recon, you can have that. You want a sniper rifle on a support class that can revive people and keep sniping? You can do that. You want SMG for, I don't know, assault rifle? Assault class? Sure. And all that kind of stuff. And you can put any weapon you want. And for example, one of the classes, like is the assault class. Assault class, for example, can have two primary weapons. You can have a assault rifle and a sniper rifle. That kind of stuff. Or a LMG and a shotgun or something like that, right? But that's, I think, it's a perk. But when you do that, apparently you use like one gadget slot. So you lose a gadget. So each class has two gadgets and you lose a gadget. Instead, you lose a gadget and you can have two primary weapons. So that's the plan they're doing, right? So each class can use any weapons they want, and it doesn't matter what class is it. There's no weapons restriction. You can use any weapon you want, and if you want to use the same weapon across all classes, you can do that. Now, the only game that did not have any weapon restrictions was Battlefield 2042, and people have to bring that up because look at Battlefield 2042. It was a disaster. We should not do anything that Battlefield 2042 did. Listen, I understand. The Battlefield community is really angry right now on DICE about this because this is not how was the old Battlefield games. This was not like in Battlefield 3. This wasn't like this in Battlefield 4. It wasn't like that in Battlefield 1, in Battlefield 5. Only it was in Battlefield 2042, and look how that turned out. Battlefield 2042 tried to keep up with the modern times, and it failed. And people have to bring it like, that's why it failed, the weapon restrictions. Like when people really, really, really angry, they love to nitpick the most ridiculous thing they can find about something, and they bring that out as one of the most important thing ever just to prove a point. Thing is, with me, I don't nitpick stuff to prove a point. I just bring the facts. And if I'm wrong in something, that's fine. I can apologize and, I'm sorry, I didn't read the full facts. That's on me, I'm sorry. But when it comes to this, the Battlefield community is really angry because they think this is against Battlefield's DNA. This is against the Battlefield core. It's even though the Battlefield community was really vibing. There was really positive vibes with the leaks coming from Battlefield Labs about this new Battlefield game. Play has been happening for the last 2 months, and people have been really happy seeing the leaks because this looks like a proper Battlefield game. Yeah, clearly it's not finished or so on. The Battlefield Labs, that's the point. But from the idea, the early concepts of this game, this new Battlefield game, the leaks were such a positive impact on the community. Like, oh, this looks actually promising for once. It doesn't look like Battlefield 2042. Look at the game. Look how the game looks right now comparing to Battlefield 2042 when the alpha was out. When Battlefield 2042 alpha was out, was it back in August? We already knew this is gonna be an absolute disaster, a shit show, a horrible game. We're fucked. We're cooked. This game was cooked from the get-go when the alpha dropped. But with Battlefield Labs and the things we've been seeing for the new game, for this new game, such a night and day difference. This game looks like almost like a completely different game to Battlefield 2042. This looks more polished, more designed well, more better Battlefield, like core ideas are there. Like you can tell this feels like a Battlefield game, like a modern Battlefield game that everyone wanted to, right? This feels like a return to form. So people were vibing literally to these leaks like, wow, this looks really good. But as soon as DICE released that blog post that weapons are not restricted to each class, you can use any weapon class you want on any class, for your character class. You can use a sniper for the assault, you can use a sniper for support, for engineer or whatever. You can do that. And people lost their shit. Like I said, it's against the Battlefield core. It's against the Battlefield DNA, all that kind of stuff. This is what now Battlefield is. What is this Call of Duty shit? Why trying to appeal the game to the Call of Duty audience? All that kind of stuff, right? And the way I see this, I think I already mentioned on Reddit one point because I was like arguing with the community. I'm just saying this reminds me when Battlefield 2 veterans were complaining about Battlefield 3, that Battlefield 3 will have specific features that were available in the older Refractor engine games. So Battlefield 2, 2142, Battlefield 1942, or something like those old Battlefield games, right, before Battlefield 3. Battlefield 2 veterans were complaining that Battlefield 3 is just basically a poor man's Call of Duty. It's a Call of Duty clone, that the Battlefield is going towards casuals, and DICE is removing their DNA, the thing that made Battlefield great in the first place. That they're chasing trends, they're chasing the money, all that kind of stuff. Battlefield 2 veterans lost their shit with Battlefield 3. Now, of course, hindsight 2020, was Battlefield 3 a bad game? Battlefield 3 is probably the most favorite Battlefield game in the franchise to date. It's still the best-selling Battlefield game to date. I know that. It's still the best-selling Battlefield title EA ever had. People talk about Battlefield 3 like one of the best Battlefields out there. And back then, I remember I was reading the articles, I was watching YouTube videos in early YouTube days. I was watching YouTube videos and reading articles and reading forums how Battlefield 3 is just a poor man's Call of Duty, a Call of Duty clone, whatever the case may be. It's just a casual Battlefield game. Like it's just for casuals. It's not Battlefield, It doesn't have 6 classes anymore. It doesn't have the teamwork. Everything is simplified and all that kind of stuff. And to this day, people that grew up with these games, it's the best Battlefield game to date. To this day, Battlefield 3 is still regarded as one of the best Battlefield games to date. Almost 15 years later. Is it 15? Yeah, almost 15. Almost 15 years later, this game is regarded as one of the best Battlefield out there. Now, people say Battlefield 4 maybe, as I mentioned. Battlefield 4, as I played Battlefield 4 just last week, yes, it aged really well, and it's still a really good, fun Battlefield game. But Battlefield 3 had that sauce, It had that magic in it. Like, the Battlefield 3 felt like it's something special is there. And I remember playing Battlefield 3 when the game came out. I had loads of fun playing Battlefield 3 back in the day. When I was like, I don't know, 15, 14, whatever, I don't remember how old I was. I was having so much fun playing Battlefield 3 back in the day. And I did not care about what Battlefield 2 veterans cared about that. Yes, my first ever Battlefield game was basically 2142. So I did not enjoy Battlefield 2 that much, but I did enjoy Battlefield 2142. Kind of the same games, it's just one futuristic and one modern. I enjoyed that. But I did not enjoy it that much like I enjoy Battlefield 3. Battlefield 3 was, for me, like mostly the starting point when it comes to the franchise. Like, that was like, okay, I understand. Because back then I was not a fan of first-person shooters. I never really cared about first-person shooters. And Battlefield 3 was like, okay, I'm a changed man now. I'm a changed man. just like Call of Duty Warzone changed me as a person, as a gamer. That changed me back in the day. And Battlefield 3 was that special game that got me into this Battlefield franchise, like what got me into this franchise, why I care about this franchise, and so on. And I'm not being arrogant, like, oh yeah, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, that's how the game should be in the future, and that's why it's always supposed to be. Like, listen, times change. We entering a new era, and DICE and EA and all that, this, like anyone working on this game, finally realized we can't rely on the old mechanics. We can't rely on the old times and everything. That's how listen, if they really want, like, if they could, which they could, if they wanted to, they could remaster Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4 and call it a day. Cool. Here you go. Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 remaster in one package. Enjoy. You will have fun for a month or two. What are you gonna do after that? You're gonna be bored because you play the same game over and over again, and you want something new. You're gonna be asking for a new Battlefield game, a year later or whatever. And then you're gonna bitch that it's not the same game as Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, but you want new. Confusing rhetorics here. So that's why he feels like, to me, when people talk about this new Battlefield game, like about the no weapon restrictions and everything, it just feels to me like history is repeating itself. Battlefield 2 veterans bitching about Battlefield 3, and now we have Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 veterans bitching about this new Battlefield game that's trying to appeal to the Call of Duty audience.
Surprise! This was not time-stamped. We hope you're enjoying the show so far, but we need to stop for a second and tell you about some important stuff. And now that we have your attention, it's time to tell you all about our amazing Patreon that is helping us keep the show going. Patreon.com/TheLankySoldier.
But yeah, episode 47, you paid for this.
I'm sorry.
I'm not, I don't care.
In my defense, I didn't know it was broken or it was going to break upon squeezing it gently.
Battlefield 1 podcast was rebooted in March of 2023. We learned a lot of lessons from our previous shows that consisted of 41 episodes, and we've been building amazing foundations for the future with this current show. There's a reason why we're the best Battlefield-related podcast available on Spotify and anywhere else. We've also had the honor of being listened to by DICE, Ripple Effect, and other developers as well. Now, we want to share even more with you through our Patreon.
And I've never seen her. So I will be like crying and yelling, and I will not be the same person I am right now.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ready for that kind of emotion. I know we're emotionally close and everything, but I don't think we're that emotionally close.
Yeah, that will be an experience of its own.
We want to thank everyone that has joined as a free member or subscribed to our Patreon in the last year. The support is greatly appreciated, always was, and always will be. It's amazing, and it only motivates us to continue with our Battlefield journey. By simply becoming a free member or even subscribing to any paid tier, you're not only supporting the show, but you're also getting a lot of content back in return.
Right, because Call of Duty gets so annoying sometimes, I actually got so desperate I installed League of Legends again.
The perks of any tier is you'll get ad-free early access to all of our future episodes. You can already listen to the previous episodes ads-free as well, simply by being a free member. There's no more waiting, no more interruptions, just pure unfiltered Battlefield content straight to your ear holes from our mouth holes and anywhere else. It's amazing, isn't it?
The only reason why CTE did as well as it did back in the day, guys, is because it wasn't locked down to secrecy. Those that couldn't participate were still able to see what was going on. That's the point that I'm getting at right now.
We're also giving you a behind-the-scenes look at what goes into making the Battlefield 1 podcast or any other content we produce, from planning sessions to recording mistakes and everything in between. You'll get an insider's perspective on how we bring each episode to life pretty much from start to finish.
And the reason why I'm saying
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's your fault.
It's all my fault.
It's all your fault, Ray. You ruined the whole show. We need to cancel it again.
Just gotta can it for another 8 months again. Just appear out of nowhere with
we need to cancel it again.
Colors.
Ray, what the fuck did you do?
And that's only Battlefield. We're also offering access to our exclusive Patreon podcast series, The Live Gaming Gathering. This is a show where friends and special guests get together and talk about everything from the video game industry to movies and whatever else is on our minds at that particular time. With more than 40 episodes already available, there's hours upon hours of content for you to listen to.
All right, I think we need to move on because we've been kind of on this subject for about the last 15 minutes now.
Yeah.
We got a couple of things in order.
Are you feeling better now? Let this
Yes,
team off.
Yeah, you got that off
I do
your chest.
I do feel better. Oh no, wait, one more thing. For example, Angela.
there.
We were in
I'm not
discussion.
going to mention any names.
Trust me, these are some of the most fun and amazing conversations we have ever had on the show. Because it's just us being us, relaxed and actually having fun. Almost like you're sitting alongside us with the conversation. Yeah.
So the reaction from the Fortnite community is like, okay, every time we see a Cybertruck in the server, it's our mission to drop everything we're doing and send that player back to the lobby.
We also believe in keeping our patrons informed, so we post monthly recaps to let you know what you probably missed during last month's episode, and we're making sure that you're not missing anything important. Just recently, we opened a brand new Discord server where people can talk to each other and get all of the latest updates about our content or the Lanky Soldier channel. Find the link in the description of this episode or at our Patreon. No subscription needed.
You are as a
You
player.
have been measured. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been measured.
Because we're confident that you'll love the content we're creating, we're offering a free trial that you can use at any time. We believe we're making good content that will make you stay, and we would not be offering free trials if we didn't think so.
I've seen a lot of people like literally get excited, like, you know what? This looks very familiar, clearly ripped from somewhere, but damn it, that looks good.
So, if you want to support the show and get all of these amazing extras, head on over to patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep delivering the content that you enjoy. Thank you for being part of the Battlefield community, and thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to seeing you on our Patreon. Now, let's get back to the show.
Now, take it as the way you like it. The way I see it, I just see that two big franchises are still somewhat alive. Well, Call of Duty is definitely alive and kicking, that's for sure. Still one of the biggest franchises on this planet. Just the fact that 10 years later, more than a decade later, we're having the same conversations we had back then like we had with Battlefield 3. We literally had the same discussions happening right now with this new Battlefield game. It's trying to appeal to the Call of Duty audience, it's trying to appeal to the casual audience, the mainstream audience, and so on. And they're trying to chase trends and money, all that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, let's put it into perspective. It's a expensive game, It's an expensive game. We how many studios are working on this game? 4 studios. DICE, Criterion, Motive, and Ripple Effect. All of them making something specific for the game. And it's just one of those, it's a very expensive. So of course, you need to make this game as mainstream as possible, as accessible as possible. That any gamer, no matter the skill level, can launch this game and have some sort of fun. And of course, I think it's a nice goal to have, like, easy to get into and hard to master. I think that's been a staple mentality for each wannabe competitive shooter or game in this game. That doesn't have to be shooter, just any game. And I'm not talking about Battlefield has to be competitive, but when you put two teams, two players on two different teams and they're fighting for objective, that's, in a sense, is competitive. Like it or not, it's competitive. I'm sorry, but that's it is. When you play a multiplayer game and you complain that someone is, too sweaty and so on, and they're trying too hard, I just want to have fun and enjoy and have a casual experience, maybe you're playing the wrong game. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. Maybe you're playing the wrong game. Multiplayer games by nature are competitive. But I'm going off topic here. But anyway, as I was saying, 14 years later, we're back again with Call of Duty and Call of Duty Warzone basically chilling on the top with no competition aesthetically when it comes to realistic FPS games. And especially with, like, in the Battle Royale genre. Like I said, we're going back to the same conversations that Battlefield is trying to appeal to the Call of Duty audience and try to get that audience back to Battlefield. Like, let them move on from the Call of Duty franchise and let them move to Call of Duty or to Battlefield franchise. So when you say you have no weapon restrictions, like every decision DICE does right now, every game design decision they do for this game and other studios working on this game, every design decision they make towards this game, it's about bringing Battlefield franchise back into relevancy. Like, it wants to be relevant again. So like I said, 4 studios working on this game. Well, it's an expensive game. That means you kind of need to get as many people what's the word I'm looking for? Interested in the game, right? Mainstream audience does not fucking care what Battlefield is doing and what it wants to do right now. Like, yeah, Battlefield Labs was announced. Cool. Did anyone care? Like in the mainstream audience? No one fucking cared. No one. No one cared that there was a Battlefield. Okay, new Battlefield game is coming. Cool. Moving on. Oh, but you can play the game early. Don't care. That was the mainstream audience reaction. If for DICE to, like, if it means changing some core features, and I'm not talking about like core features, like changing the game, like Battlefield is not first-person shooter anymore. It's a RTS or something like that. I'm not talking about that way. Like, it's still gonna be a first-person shooter, with the Battlefield, setting and modern setting and everything. You have vehicles, tanks and helicopters and jets fighting together with infantry and so on, capturing objectives and arming, MCOMs, all kind of stuff. That's gonna be Battlefield. That's the thing. Battlefield's not changing to like something else. It's not gonna be RTS or a character shooter or Overwatch or something like that. No, it's still gonna be Battlefield. But if it means changing some core features in the game that were standard back in the day, like locked weapon classes in specific classes, whatever, locked weapons restrictions or weapon restrictions for each class, if it means changing that to attract or make it easier for the modern audience of gamers to understand the game, so be it. Every decision DICE makes regarding this game is to bring the game back into being relevant in the mainstream. And if changing a core feature to make it easier for the modern gamer to understand the game, that's fine. It's fine. Like, that's going back to the same argument of, oh, I don't want to see flag outlines in my Battlefield game because it's not realistic, it's not immersive enough. Right. It's not for you. I'm sorry, but it's not. Yeah, you might. Yes, I kind of disagree. Oh, I can't agree with some people saying like, this is just for dummies that don't know how to play a first-person shooter in the first place. Why are they even doing that? Yes, you're right. I kind of agree. I kind of agree that this is all designed for dum-dums that have no idea what they're doing. I get that. But I personally like the outlines on the flag objectives because it kind of it makes it easier for me. I don't want to play minimap simulator. I don't want to like look at the minimap saying like, oh, am I standing in the right location? Can I capture this flag? Oh no, I have to move a bit forward. No, I can see it in the game world where I'm standing, and then I can decide where I want to take cover, where I can shoot the enemies and so on. For me, as a above average player, for me that's a good thing because it makes my job shooting enemies much easier. I benefit from that as a player because I understand how to read the game, I understand how to read the situation. For me, it's a good thing because it makes my job, so-called job, much easier because I don't have to focus on the minimap to look at some trivial thing. I can just look at in the game itself and I know what I need to stand. That's a good thing. And if going back on the same thing, like weapon restrictions, if it makes easier for people to select a gun they want to play with, they want to play with a assault rifle, cool. Let them have that assault rifle for each class. It's not gonna make the class less appealing. People will choose a class based on their preference, right? Back in the day, I know there were some stats saying that people rather choose the weapon than the class, and I don't know if that's true. It's all based on opinion, but probably true. The majority of people chose the class based on a weapon, and that's kind of makes sense. But now, because you don't have any weapon restrictions and you can take any weapon you want to any class, that means the way I see it, it will make each class more desirable. So, and if you want to explore other classes, you can without sacrificing your gameplay, style. Because a lot of gamers have, like a lot of first-person shooter gamers, they have their own particular style they enjoy using. They have a style how they want to play the game, but at the same time they want to explore other things, right? And if I can choose a different class and explore something new for myself without jeopardizing my game style, my gameplay style and everything, that's fine. That's perfect. It's fine. Like I know some people worry like, that, it's going to be unbalanced and so on, all that kind of stuff. What's the point of classes and so on? Well, the classes have been defined by the equipment they have, not by the weapons, honestly. Yeah, you can say weapons define the class, but does it? Because back in Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, you had universal weapons, like carbines, right? Those are basically assault rifles. So you still can have an assault rifle on a recon class in Battlefield 4 and just play as you play in an assault class, but just with recon gadgets. What's the difference here? Sure, you can maybe judge like carbines and shotguns, whatever, should not be universal weapons. But then people will bitch that classes are not distributed equally because everyone picking the assault class because he has all the assault rifles. Why do I should play other classes if it has all my favorite weapons in one class? I'm not gonna pick any other class, and that's the problem. You kind of want to create a synergy between classes. You kind of want to create that each class is a desirable choice, and that's the philosophy DICE is trying to go with, It's trying to appeal to the modern gamers that want to explore other classes, but at the same time, they don't want to sacrifice their gameplay style that they grew up with, that they have, like and so on. Some people want to run and gun. Some people want to, camp and do nothing, just snipe on top of the hill. And people say like, oh, a medic class, a support class with a sniper rifle just camping on the hill, it just feels wrong. Yeah, sure, it is wrong. But then again, you also assume that weapon restrictions will make that player play differently. You assume that support player, that medic will heal you or revive you, or the recon will spot enemies, or the support class will drop ammo, or whatever the case may be. You assume that in a perfect world, yeah, that would happen. But even in Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 2042, any Battlefield game, I had moments. I had in Battlefield 4 actually, where a guy was not throwing ammo. I was out of ammo. In Operation Locker, I was out of ammo. My dude was not throwing ammo whatsoever. In Battlefield 4. And that's the perfect Battlefield game to people. That's the restriction they want. My dude is not throwing ammo. Okay, so weapon restrictions will not change how the people play. But this way, maybe we can encourage people to explore other classes and maybe actually give a shit about their class. Maybe. Because that's the way I see it personally. That's the way I personally see it. And the thing is that I've seen that. I was having this conversation with a content creator, a Battlefield content creator on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and he was fully against, like any Battlefield community member, he was fully against this idea that weapon restrictions should be locked. There should be weapon restrictions, and weapons should not be available to each class. Like all the weapons should not be available to each class, and each class has like specific assault rifle have assault rifle, so the typical way, right? The typical Battlefield community mentality, right? This is shit and so on. And I said, well, wait a minute, my dude. You have to understand. You have to look at the bigger picture, right? You have to look at the bigger picture. Like, have you played other games? Have you played other first-person shooters that is not Battlefield, right? And I think that's the problem with the Battlefield community. When they talk about, oh, this is how it's supposed to be, they don't really play they don't play other first-person shooters. They don't play Call of Duty Warzone. They don't play, I don't know, let's say, was it the Finals? They don't play the Fragpunk, whatever. They don't play CSGO. I don't know. Seems like majority of these people that bitch about the Battlefield should be this way and only this way, from what I've seen, they don't play other games. They don't play other first-person shooters, and they have no idea how modern games work these days. They don't see how that mainstream casual audience play other games. I've been playing Call of Duty Warzone since it came out, right? I've finished every season's Battle Pass to a T. I haven't missed a Battle Pass. I finished it. I played Call of Duty Ranked, multiplayer, and I played Call of Duty Warzone Ranked. I participate in the World Series of Warzone Championship qualifiers, whatever you want to call it, right? Where best players qualify for the, championship, whatever you want to call it, right? I played in those tournaments and everything. Finished, I think last year I finished with my squad mates. I finished 1,142 or something like that from 3,000 teams in Europe. We did okay. We're not professionals. We're just a bunch of average people, but we just want to have the experience, right? Just to see how well we can do, right? We had no hopes of qualifying, of course not. But just our goal was to finish like in top 1,000. We didn't achieve that goal, but that's okay. We learned our lessons and everything, and we'll try to do better this year. you know, people don't play like they have similar mechanics. Like for example, Call of Duty Warzone. It's just like you can have two primary weapons because that's part of like, you know, it's a battle royale. You can have a sword rifle, you can have a sniper, and so on, right? And people say, well, you can't compare Warzone and Battlefield multiplayer to Warzone. It's not the same. Different gameplay mechanics, different mentality, and so on. Like, is it? Is it really? And like people like that content creator said to me like, well, imagine you have a LMG and a shotgun and just like you're around the corner and kill like 10 people and then whip out your shotgun and kill more. Okay? You're assuming that the bad player, you know, a good player in that situation would not kill those players anyway with any weapon they can have. We literally nitpicking something that was back in the old Battlefield games, and you think it will not work in this new Battlefield game. I think that's wrong. And yes, you can compare Battlefield multiplayer to Warzone, because Call of Duty Warzone is the closest thing that we have outside Battlefield that is not Battlefield. Because of the sandbox idea, how the ballistics work, even though, yes, Warzone is a more basic shooter. It's more arcadey and so on. And Battlefield is arcadey shooter, but it's tries to be on the more serious note. Like, you know, it has more ballistics, it has more teamwork, it has destruction, all that kind of stuff. I get that. But on a basic level, like on the most basic level, they both kind of work the same and they kind of want to work the same. And then you look, you know, how Battlefield needs to survive, what it needs to do to be a successful game. You know, if it's coming out this year or it's coming out next year. It doesn't matter. You have to think it this way. If Warzone just stopped existing, yeah, sure, maybe Battlefield will have a chance. But because Warzone exists in this current times, Call of Duty Warzone, the Call of Duty franchise exists in current times, and Battlefield wants to be back in the mainstream, tries to be relevant again in the mainstream audience, that means you kind of have to meet what the Call of Duty standard is. I'm not saying you have to go below the Call of Duty standard or the highest standard, but you kind of have to offer something different or something more unique that people will be interested moving on from Call of Duty Warzone. If you can't move people from Call of Duty Warzone, you will never move to, like, you will not get new players. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. That's how competition is. There's so many games these days, so many franchises, so many different games coming out every freaking month or week in this matter. There's so many games coming out, and you need to do, like, if you want to be relevant, you kind of need to meet that standard. And what Call of Duty offers these days is a single player, a multiplayer, and a free-to-play battle royale. And on the side, you have co-op side missions, like co-op modes. Like Modern Warfare 3 had Modern Warfare Zombies, Black Ops 6 has zombies in general. And I don't remember what was in Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2, I think it was like raids, where you had to play with other friends and to achieve, like, which were fun, but not the point. That's what you're competing at, against. If you're EA and you want to go back into the mainstream, you have to look what the competition is doing. And the closest competition they have, sure, you can't compete with Call of Duty as a one-to-one in a fair fight. Call of Duty will kill you majority of the time. Call of Duty will have the audience. But you need to start somewhere to have some sort of chance of surviving. Because look at X-Defiant. Look at other tactical shooters like, let's say, Fragpunk. That's what it's called, right? Or the game called World War 3. Or Battlefield 2042. Or whatever. Choose any first-person shooter that came on in the last 5 years and tell me how they're doing. Are they still relevant? The only one that I see somewhat relevant is the finals. Somewhat relevant, right? So they need time to establish themselves as a prime first-person shooter that can compete against other first-person shooters like Call of Duty, right? You need to do something that is interesting, unique, and so on. Yeah, you can be your own thing, but at the same time, if you look at how the game is doing, like the finals, it has some stuff that is borrowed from other franchises and some other games and so on. Like that, that's normal. That's okay to borrow some stuff from there. It's okay. But then you look like, that's what Battlefield needs to do. That's why there's 4 studios working on this game. Ripple Effect is making Ripple Effect is making a Battle Royale, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, just a quick mention of it. They're making a Battle Royale. Motive Studios is making a single-player game, a single-player portion of the game. DICE is making the multiplayer, and Criterion is just helping everywhere the way they can, because we need more developers working on this game, because we need content and so on, future seasons, launches and so on. We need to support this game as long as possible, right? That's the point, that like we want to keep this game as relevant as possible. Live service, all that kind of stuff, keep it, that mainstream audience will care about this game in the long run. That's what you have to deal with. So that's why we're getting all these modes and everything in this new Battlefield game, because that's the standard you need to meet just to have a chance of competing against big games like that. That's the point. And that's why, like, when people come, that's why the weapon restrictions thing is like, it's not a thing in this new Battlefield game, because other games don't have those kind of restrictions, because people would be really weirded out, like, oh, this is a bit hardcore and so on. Like, listen, I understand some comments saying like, oh, they're just bad. They're just bad players won. Cool. Well, no one will care when the game is going to be shut down, like the franchise is going to be shut down because it didn't sell enough copies, right? If this new Battlefield game is a colossal failure, goodbye Battlefield franchise. It doesn't matter what you think, oh, it should be that way and so on. Doesn't matter. I hate to say it, but you kind of have to. You're not God. You're not supreme leader of this plan. You can't dictate what the players want, what the gamers want, what the mainstream audience wants, and all that kind of stuff. You can't dictate, unfortunately. You can't. So EA has to adapt. Battlefield has to adapt. Battlefield has to adapt to the modern times, to the new era, what it is. So that's why we're getting a Battle Royale. That's why we're getting a single player. That's why we're getting a multiplayer. That's why we're getting some other mode. Was it Conlet or something? Whatever. That's not the point. It's gonna be a big game, an expensive game, and that's because they have no choice. If you want to make Battlefield to be relevant in the mainstream audience, you kind of have to like shoot for the moon and hope for the best. That's the sad reality is. Otherwise, you will die. You will die with like any other first-person shooter that came out in the last 5 years. If not 10 years, like, X-Defiant, was it? Lasted for a year, shut down. And was it a bad game? No, I think it was a good game. I think it was a really nice, entertaining 6-on-6 shooter. Wannabe Call of Duty shooter. Did not succeed, got shut down. Then other game, the other Ubisoft game, I forgot. There was another one game. Shit, I forgot. Oh, the Battle Royale. What was it? Hyperscape or something like that? Or Hyperspace? I don't remember. It was a wannabe futuristic, Titanfall-like Battle Royale. Did not work out. Just got shut down like a year later too. So it did not have succeed. And I've seen loads of people that used to play Battlefield 3, Battlefield 2, Battlefield 4, and so on. Those old Battlefield games. They're coming out with ideas how to make this new Battlefield game more realistic, more in-depth, more skillful and more meaningful, which, sure, I get. Good ideas, you want to make every gun, you need more classes, more meaningful gunplay, more teamwork, whatever, just more like mil-sim experience, I get that. You want to have this an experience. You want this be a cinematic experience of people working together in a Battlefield. You want to be on a Battlefield game, you want to be in a war zone, a Battlefield. You want that, right? Combined arms, warfare, all that kind of stuff. You just want to be in a movie and just EA just grabs your hand and then just take you on a ride, right? Like that's what you want. I get that. People want a more realistic franchise and so on. I get that. Sure, good ideas. But again, we're going back to the same points I made earlier. It has to be mainstream. Otherwise, bye-bye Battlefield as a franchise. If this game doesn't sell, you will never see another Battlefield game from EA. Because they lost too much money on this franchise already. Like, 4 studios working on this game, it's an expensive fucking game. And for them to have a chance, you need that. That's the point. For them to have a chance of survival and be relevant in the mainstream media, especially for a franchise like Battlefield that is really, back in the day, was famous being the competitor Call of Duty, the classical competitors, Call of Duty and Battlefield, competing for the player bases, for the, players, time and everything. And so on. Like back in the day, there were traditional rivals. It's not that anymore. Call of Duty adapted to the times. Like, you might hate Call of Duty Warzone. You might hate it. But Call of Duty Warzone had to happen to keep the franchise relevant, you know? That's the thing. So 95% of the gamers don't really want to play milsim, very advanced FPS games when they're back from work or have a couple of hours to spare to play a video game. They want streamlined, well-designed, quick and easy, digestible entertainment, while still feeling they have achieved something in their time playing this video game. The ideas the Battlefield community has or proposing are not friendly towards that goal of making this game accessible and enjoyable for the broader audience. Listen, when you start playing Battlefield 3, sure, they want. Why you don't think developers were not thinking about that? Like, listen, we want this game to be accessible because we understand Battlefield 2 may be a bit too hardcore for some people, and they came out with Battlefield 3. Was Battlefield 3 not a good game? Of course, it was a good game. It's one of the best Battlefield games to date. You know, I still think Battlefield 3 is one of the best. You know, out of the Battlefield games, like it's definitely in the top 2. Battlefield 3 or 4, or maybe Battlefield 1, like competing for those spots, right? These 3 games, right? That mechanically different from each other, but they offer something that is unique to Battlefield and unique something that mainstream audience can relate to, right? There's of course different comments going on, like, oh, they're not building on the previous games and so on. Sure, I get that, but it's just one of those things. Like, you kind of have to adapt the game to modern times, otherwise you're just losing out too much. It's just you lose, and that's what DICE is doing. Like, I think David Sirlin said like a month ago, I think one of the famous quotes, they're trying to make the game available for everyone to enjoy. That's why you get, you know, in the playtest, like when the first leaks that came out of this Battlefield Labs playtest, you see these gamers, you know, these players playing the Battlefield game, this alpha of this Battlefield game, this new Battlefield game, they're garbage. They're garbage at the first-person shooters. And that's on purpose. They were invited on purpose because they want to see how the garbage players, you know, react to this game. Now, of course, they're not gonna dumb down the game to this level that it's not fun to play in the long run. Of course not. But you can make sure that certain edges, certain really rough edge cases, right? Make sure that 95% of those shitty, you know, those casual gamers still can have a really good time, even though they're getting plundered and plundered and plundered non-stop by bad players, being sent back to the redeploy screen, killed and destroyed, tag stolen, abused to oblivion. But if they're having fun, they're having fun. That means they stay on the game, and they'll maybe if they enjoy the game, they'll spend some money on microtransactions, or like they'll spend some money on cosmetics. That's the thing. That's what they're trying to do. And of course, guys, they're not gonna go like, oh, there has to be like absolutely designed for potato players. Of course not, because otherwise no one's gonna be playing, no one's gonna enjoy, and like, we're gonna have fun for a week, and then we move on to other games, and bye-bye Battlefield, right? No, of course they're gonna try to best to make it skillful and so on, but you need to find the right balance. That's the thing. You need to find the balance. It's always been about balance to whom you want to prioritize the audience for, which audience you want to prioritize the game for. And that's the thing. It's not an easy thing to achieve. And when you have Call of Duty that has 4 different experiences, multiplayer, single player, battle royale, co-op, right? You need to achieve that standard, right? For the Battlefield to be relevant. And that's what they're trying to do. And that's not an easy thing to do. And only a few games, few publishers, few studios can even think about making stuff like that. Look at Delta Force. Wow, you think Delta Force is doing like really great these days? Not really. I mean, sure, it's doing somewhat okay, but not really. We were wondering if Delta Force has the ability to compete with DICE, you know, with EA, with the Battlefield franchise, for the Battlefield players, you know, time and everything, maybe even steal some from Call of Duty. Not really. Call of Duty is still standing as it was. It will be. But do you think it affected the Battlefield franchise in the long run? Don't think so. You know, as long as DICE has a vision, which seems like they do have a vision for this game, as long as they stick to the vision, they will, I think, will succeed. And that's the thing we're dealing with. And of course, as this blog post got released, lots of discussions were happening and all that kind of stuff. Some community members are coming out and saying there was never a perfect Battlefield game, to date. And they're right. There was never really a perfect Battlefield game to this day. What I've been saying for the last decade, honestly. That's what I've been saying for the last decade. That, listen, I love Battlefield 3. It's not perfect. I love Battlefield 3. It's not perfect. Battlefield 1. Oh, hell no. Battlefield 5? Oh, not even close. Battlefield 2042? Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. In my Battlefield vocabulary, Battlefield 2042 doesn't exist. So let's put it that way. So there was never really a perfect Battlefield game. Yeah, people say, well, Battlefield 4 was close to perfection. Was it? Yeah, to those times, right? Release Battlefield, like I said earlier, release Battlefield 4 these days, we think it'd be a successful game? Sure, for a month. What's next? What's the next entertainment, right? New Call of Duty is coming out, new features, new mechanics, let's go. Is it gonna be garbage? Probably. But is it something new? Yes. Am I not bored for a month? Yes. I'm having some sort of fun. And they have a system. That's what DICE is dealing with. And yeah, some of the community members finally coming out and like, yeah, I'm sorry, but this Battlefield community kind of need to give it a rest, And the thing is, I saw some community members from Battlefield are literally coming out and calling out the Battlefield community, saying that they still live in the past. And that's a correct assessment, honestly. All the comments about, weapons are not restricted to classes, this is horrible, this is unbalanced, and so on. Have you played other games that is not Battlefield? Other games are fine. They're doing just fine. Well, when I say fine, I was like they're surviving and they still have an audience and so on. The finals, Apex and Warzone, and they're completely different games than what they were like 5 years ago, right? Or Fortnite in that matter. Like, yeah, they have that spirit in them. They have that spirit in them that's still that game that they were 5-10 years ago. They're still there. Like, listen, Call of Duty Warzone, right? It had to happen for the franchise to be relevant in the modern times with the mainstream audience. That had to happen. But it's still Call of Duty. It still feels like a Call of Duty, plays like a Call of Duty, and so on. But it's just like adapted to modern times. That's what Battlefield needs to do. Battlefield needs to adapt to modern times. Otherwise, you're just gonna die. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. And when certain community members and I say a couple of times, the Battlefield community definitely lives in the past. They have to let go of the past and just move on. I'm sorry. And like I said, for example, our podcast audience members, our core podcast audience members, whether I like it or not, is 25 plus. That's, they're 25 or years older, 25 years old or older, right? That's our core audience. And what does it tell me? That the majority of young audience doesn't really care about Battlefield franchise that much. And for obvious reasons. And of course, you can go back to, like, if I really want to have a fight with the Battlefield community always been this really gatekeeping community. It's like, Battlefield has to be this and only that. No exceptions. So when we have discussions about no weapon restrictions, we entering this, like, gatekeeping again. Like, Battlefield has to be this and only that. Well, this is why you're not a developer working on this game. This is why you're not getting paid to work on this game. Because there's people that are smarter than us, debatable, of course. I'm not saying developers are perfect. Of course not. If developers make a stupid-ass decision, I will call out the stupid decision. I call them idiots for making that decision, of course. But again, it's about finding the right balance between casual and somewhat like skillful and entertaining and cinematic and immersive, all that kind of stuff. You need to find the right balance. But my advice for the Battlefield community with this new game, you have to remember, this is a reboot, right? This is a fresh new start for the Battlefield franchise. This is what Battlefield is for the modern times. Like, Battlefield 3 was the reboot, the reset we all needed for the franchise to be relevant and good and entertaining and introducing to new people, right? So this new Battlefield game that DICE is making, and without the 3 studios, this is gonna be someone's Battlefield 3. This new Battlefield game is gonna be someone's Battlefield 3. They don't care about what was in the old Battlefield games. They don't care. And why should they care? They just want a good game and they want to have fun shooting some other players in a multiplayer game. That's it. They just want to have a fun video game. And this new Battlefield game, like I say, is going to be someone's Battlefield 3. This is why I don't really care about what was in the next Battlefield game, and I don't want to gatekeep everything that was happening. I want more people to enjoy this franchise that I really, really love. That's the thing. I want people to enjoy this franchise. I don't care what skill level you are. I don't care. I don't care that you play first person shooters or you don't play first person shooters. As long as you're having fun playing this new Battlefield game, and maybe you can join me for a couple of rounds and have fun with me, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I'm so happy. That's all it is. It's just video games. It's just video games that you can't just. And we need to start with the gatekeeping shit the Battlefield community has. It has to be this and this and that. Like I said, every decision DICE is making about this game is to make it approachable and accessible to new players. Yeah, don't dumb down the franchise to ridiculous levels that is something else entirely. Of course not. But you have to adapt the franchise to new modern times. Otherwise, you're lost. You're dead. You're gonna be dead like any other first-person shooters out there, and you can say bye-bye to the Battlefield franchise. It will never see it again the next decade or two or whatever. That's the thing. And it's not like EA is gonna sell the franchise. No, they rather sit on the franchise and keep it in currents of emergency. Maybe we'll bring it back one time, one day for something. You know, look at Medal of Honor franchise, dead, forgotten. The only thing we had was some VR game made by Respawn, was it 5 years ago? And they tried to maybe VR games can be the future. Let's see. Let's put a big budget Medal of Honor game behind as a VR game. Yeah, where's Medal of Honor franchise right now? Oh yes, sorry. The franchise I really loved is gone. Yeah. That's the thing. You have to adapt to the modern times, and that's what happened with Medal of Honor Warfighter. Good games, but they never adapted to the modern times. They tried, did not succeed. Well, mostly because Medal of Honor Warfighter was a broken mess when it launched, but that's a different story. Even though I really love that game. And it's funny, people that played the beta, or not the beta, they played the playtest this previous week. They literally say yeah, this feels like Medal of Honor Warfighter with Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 skin on top of it, which is fine. That's a good combo if you ask me. That's a really good combo. Something different from Call of Duty, not hyper movement related and so on. It's a bit more grounded and so on, slower, and that's a good thing. But it still can compete with Battlefield, or still can compete with Call of Duty, as long as you offer something different that is interesting from Call of Duty. Sorry, but yeah, I've been rambling for an hour now, and then I'm sorry if it doesn't make any sense what I've been talking about and so on, but I tried. Now, of course, there's some Battle Royale details got leaked and so on, and I could talk about that, but I'm just gonna mention this. I'm not gonna mention about the details about the Battle Royale that got leaked. Thank you to Temporal, our famous Battlefield leaker that goes through the files and leaks everything from the game. So he leaked the Battle Royale details for the next game. I'm not gonna talk about it for too long. I'm just gonna end this episode on that, but I'm just gonna say this. So as we've been saying for the last hour, the Battlefield needs to adapt to the new modern times. It's entering a new era, a new age, as you might say, right? We're entering a new age in Battlefield. And one of them is a Battle Royale. So I read the leaks about the next Battle Royale, how the game is going to work, right? Without getting into too much detail, it's clearly, you can tell. If you've been playing Warzone, even for a month, right? If you played Warzone on somewhat normal, respectable level, right? Whatever, I don't know what to call it, respectable. I don't know what to say. If you've been playing Warzone, any other games, in that matter, and when you read this Battle Royale leaks about this new Battlefield Battle Royale, this is Warzone with a twist. That's what we're dealing here. That's what I've been trying to tell you. And the leaks, for example, say Battlefield community reading these leaks oh, this looks really interesting, this looks really fun. Battlefield community actually got really excited about this Battlefield Battle Royale leaks because there's loads of details about how the game works, what the mechanics will be, and so on. People got really excited. Oh, this sounds really good, so on. The Battlefield might have a chance. I'm yeah, because everything I just read from these leaks about this Battlefield Battle Royale, this is Warzone with a twist. That's what I'm saying. People don't know what they're talking about when they want, Battlefield is supposed to be this way. Have you played any other first-person shooters that is not fucking Battlefield or not a game designed by DICE. Have you played Call of Duty? Like, this Battle Royale sounds interesting. Yeah, because Call of Duty Warzone perfected that system when it comes to Battle Royale, arcade Battle Royale. They perfected that system. There's a reason why people love Warzone so much, because it has that hook, it has that system. They perfected the formula. And then, of course, DICE is looking at this like, okay, can we take the Warzone formula and twist it in a way to make it into a Battlefield Battle Royale? Like, instead of, in Warzone, we have gas as a closing circle, right? The gas kills you and so on, and it makes it into a little circle. Battlefield, from what it seems, they're like, okay, let's take this, but replace the gas with fire, like the Battle Royale that was in Battlefield 5. Was it called Firestorm? That's what it was called, right? Firestorm. So Firestorm Battle Royale from Battlefield 5, right? The fire was a really good addition. Like, yeah, it was really unique and scary and so on. Like, oh fuck, the fire is coming my way, so I kind of need to go in the circle. So let's take Warzone, replace the gas with fire, and then instead of constructs that we have in Warzone, let's call them missions. And you have to do them to achieve, like, I don't know, some currency or whatever, and you get, like, vehicles or something like that. You get a tank or whatever. Like, that's why it sounds like. They took the Warzone formula and they applied that to a Battlefield game. And people, when Battlefield communities got really excited, this just told me that, literally proved my point, that none of these people play any other game other than Battlefield, and this hardcore small community are just bitching about that Battlefield is doing something similar what other games are doing. Like, they're adapting from each other, they're borrowing from mechanics from each other, like ideas and so on, like, oh, this looks fun. Yeah, we've been having this in Warzone for the last 5 years. Of course it's fun. There's a reason why Warzone is fun these days. Well, I can talk about Warzone for different reasons, but that's the point. Like, this proved to me that none of you, like at least the Battlefield community of what I'm seeing, the majority of it, haven't played any other games, and they never attempted to play other games and learn and get new experiences in their lives when it comes to first-person shooters. They only play Battlefield games and DICE-produced games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 or maybe not Medal of Honor Warfighter, but that's what they're sticking with. Like, and maybe they play like games like The Squad. Was the other some semi-arcadic realistic show in Incursion? No, not Incursion. Oh my god, I forgot. Anyway, some sort of game, I forgot. Not the point. The point is, like, that's the Battlefield community, that they always play the same freaking games, and they have no idea what's going on in other games, and when they hear these rumors about the next Battlefield Battle Royale game, this looks interesting. Yeah, because this is basically Call of Duty Warzone with a twist, with the Battlefield twist on it. That's it. That's the point. And they look at Warzone, what doesn't work in Warzone, what's annoying in Warzone, maybe we can improve it in this, our own Battle Royale game. Oh, players are dead? Okay, we can't really have a gulag because it will be the same thing as Call of Duty Warzone. Oh, but let's have this Overwatch feature that got leaked. Like, you can use the cameras and spectate and tell your players, your friends that are still alive, what the enemy is, or whatever they can be engaged in the end product until the game ends, right? Yeah, they will not have a gulag system, but they'll have something else. And that's a twist. That's a twist on the genre that Call of Duty Warzone established. And I think this Battle Royale, as it seems like will be free to play, will be a really good addition to the Battlefield franchise. But it also proved that to me the Battlefield community doesn't play other freaking games. They have no idea what's going on in other games. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. You need to go and play other games and understand where these decisions, game design decisions, are coming from, why the weapons are not restricted, why the customization for the characters are coming, and all that kind of stuff. Why we have a single player, a battle royale, and multiplayer, and something else coming out. That's why you need to play other games and understand what's going on. You need to go away from your bubble, the Battlefield bubble that you always love with Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. You need to start being a boom. And I remember I saw some people coming out of the woodwork, like some content creators that made videos for Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. They come out like out of nowhere. Yeah, I hope they're gonna do Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. And no, all the decisions they make are stupid. Battlefield's failed too. If you don't do Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, this game is gonna fail. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Just, you've been gone for the last 7-8 years. never said a thing, and suddenly you come out of nowhere and start saying, oh, Battlefield should do this. You don't know what Battlefield should do this. You haven't played other games. What do you want? You don't know what's happening in the modern market. I'm sorry, but you're just a boomer. I have to accept. I'm a person over 30 years old. I'm a boomer, basically, by definition. Well, okay, I'm not over 40, but I'm a boomer by, modern standards, right? I'm an old man. Whatever I played in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, doesn't apply to the modern days. But that's why I play other games, to be familiar what's happening in the gaming market, to understand how players adapt and play these games. So when I see decisions like that, the classes will not have restricted weapons, you can use any weapon you want, makes sense, because that's what the modern audience wants, and they apply the lessons they learn from other games, and they apply to this new Battlefield game. It just makes sense. And every decision DICE does with this game is with the design to make this game accessible and modern to the times. Like, you want to be adapting to the modern times, otherwise you will fail and you will be destroyed and you will be forgotten. Like I said, Battlefield is not in the mainstream audience. No one freaking cares what Battlefield does because it's not there anymore. Battlefield been producing same games, same garbage over and over again. Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, Battlefield 2042. It was an attempt. Okay, Battlefield 2042 was maybe an attempt of modernizing the franchise, but it was such a development hell. It had no chance regardless, because it was such a development hell. It had no chance regardless. That's the thing. It's not fair to compare this game to Battlefield 2042 because 2042 had different problems that were deep rooted in the management and the decision making of this game. It's not fair to compare it. While with this new Battlefield game, DICE has a vision. They have some sort of idea what they want to achieve for the next game. And you can see from the Battlefield Labs, the game feels like a Battlefield game. Looks and smells like a Battlefield game. And that they already achieved that just in the alpha stages. More than Battlefield 2042 did in the whole development of this game, like the whole existence of the game. They achieved more in these last 3 months than they did with Battlefield 2042 in the last 3 years. That's a good sign. Yeah, of course, this game will have some red flags. Some will have some problems that we don't enjoy and so on. Again, for example, there was already a conversation that the assault class is a bit unbalanced. That's fine. Balance is balance. That will be fixed, will be balanced, and so on. And this Battle Royale that got leaked, all the deals about, this is just Warzone with a twist. That's all it is. And people need to start playing other games to understand why these decisions are being made for this new Battlefield game. That's what I'm trying to tell. That's what I'm trying to say to you all. Just play other games and see how it goes. Just like experience because they're not bad games. Like, sure, Warzone and Call of Duty, and other games, they have their own problems they have to deal with. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. But they're still fun games on their own merit. There's a reason why they're so big and entertaining and so on. Because they're good at what they do. And Battlefield needs to be good at what they do, right? And like I said, new clean slate. Let's start from the scratch. It's a reboot and everything. Nothing's connected to old games. Sure, we'll leave some references in there and there. But it's a brand new game. Brand new slate, brand new story, brand new direction, but it's a Battlefield game. It feels like a Battlefield game, smells like a Battlefield game, but it's adapted to the modern times. And that's all I'm gonna say. There's of course other stuff that was mentioned, but you know what? I've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes already. I'm not gonna bore you too much, but I'm just gonna end it on this, like on the closing thought. Whatever DICE is doing, it's on purpose. It's not to piss you off. It's not that they don't want money or that the EA doesn't want money. They want money. That's the point. They want all the money in the world because they're a gaming company and they're greedy, all that kind of stuff. Andrew Wilson uses Ford Bugatti, whatever. Doesn't matter. They need money. Of course, they're going to make a game for money. Duh. But it doesn't mean they can't be a fun game. Doesn't mean it can't be a fun Battlefield game and so on. And I have a feeling this will be a really fun Battlefield game because so far, everything I've seen from the Battlefield Labs playtest, I haven't played the playtest yet. I did not got invited. I have no idea. My friend got invited. He played it. He told me some stuff, but I can't really say much because I haven't played the game. opinions matter. You know, everyone has different opinions and all that kind of stuff. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to my ramblings and all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys for listening. And sorry, it's only me today. So also, I'm gonna update you some guys. So like I said, I was on holiday for the last week and a half. So that's why there was no episode last week, because I was on holiday and I just did nothing. I just enjoyed my time, played some Battlefield 4, enjoyed some nature, enjoyed some time with the wife, and just spent some time with the family. It was lovely. So that's why there was nothing happening in the last week. Now I'm back. Now we're gonna have some gonna have some episodes coming up. I have a guest coming over, a returning guest this Monday. So hopefully it's gonna be a nice, good recording. I have a feeling it's gonna be a passionate debate again, and we'll see how it goes. Still working on the website. Like I said, I was on holiday. I haven't worked on the website for a week, so I'm so sorry. But I've been gathering feedback. I got some good feedback. If you joined our Patreon and you went to the post, like I said, you're gonna get your free subscription because you gave us feedback, like I promised. I already sent some Patreon free subscriptions to people that gave us feedback. Thank you so much for the feedback you gave us about the website. The website is being worked on. It's working. It's in the pre-alpha stages, or whatever I want to call it, but it's getting there. We have some sort of vision now. We have an idea what we want to do, and it's coming along nicely. So hopefully, I don't want to make too many promises, but I want to believe that the website is gonna be working. They're gonna be released next time this month, like this upcoming month. So yeah, that's kind of it. So also thank you guys for joining the Patreon and all that kind of stuff, giving feedback, thank you for subscribing, all that kind of stuff. And that's great. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for interacting with us. I'm sorry that it's only me because, like I said, Ray is working and the other one is traveling through Japan. So that's kind of it. So yeah, other than that, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, leave a like, you follow us on Spotify, leave a rating on Spotify, leave comments, whatever the case may be. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. See ya!